And okay. So that's recorded. Okay, great. So I'm gonna go to the system. So this is a website. I send you the link before through an email with some information about how to access it. And I'm gonna go to the presentation here. Now, for now, I guess don't worry too much about this because we will get to see this in more detail later. So I'm gonna give first a presentation, a small introduction about the summer school, the applicants, and the plan that we have for the rest of the weeks, the 2 weeks that we have. So again, welcome everybody to the Science of Science Summer School. I'm very, very excited to be organizing this. We wanted to have it last year here in Syracuse, New York, in central New York here, but unfortunately, you know what's happening. So we would like to continue organizing this, hopefully year after year. So it's very exciting to see a lot of interest in the summer school. So my name is Daniel Acuna. You can also call me Daniel Acuña. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Information Studies at Syracuse University. And I would like to ask Stephen and if the others would like to introduce themselves, that would be great. So Stephen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Stephen David. I'm sort of a relatively long-time collaborator with Daniel. My day job, I guess you might call it, is studying neuroscience at Oregon Health and Science University, but I have a pretty long-running interest in the science of science. And so anyways, yeah, I'm very excited to see you all here and just to see this level of enthusiasm.
Great. Yeah, so Stephen is in the West Coast, so and I know that some people are in very different time zones, so and we are gonna take a look at that. But before, I would like to just get out of the way, thanks to yes, very early. Thanks to the funders, so this wouldn't be possible without a grant with Stephen, trying to understand social dynamics of knowledge transfer. And this couldn't have been done without the help of our students, Lijian Liang. I don't know if Lijian, if you're there, Han Zhuang, Jim Yi, and Qing Qi. He's a postdoc, but he's going to join in a couple of weeks, the Central University of Hong Kong. And we have a media partner who was really helping us with spreading the word about this event, the Academic Data Science Alliance. Okay, so I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about the motivation behind this summer school. You're probably familiar with other events around computational social science. I will say Science of Science is within computational social science. And many of these events tended to have more of a methodology point of view. So you would attend these meetings, and it will be, you know, several weeks. Some of them, like CICS, you are going, you know, you go to Michigan or wherever you are, and you attend lectures about programming and things like that, which is great. You learn to do regressions and things like that. But we wanted this to be more specifically about Science of Science, with the goal of discussing questions and grand ideas that we might have about this very relatively new field, although you know, there are many precedents to what is happening. But I would say that because we have so many new data sets and so much interest, that there's been an explosion in this field. So we wanted to create this summer school initially with the purpose of having mentors and giving you the opportunity to meet with them, ideally one-on-one. Of course, it would have been ideal to be here and see them in person and, you know, brainstorm ideas on the whiteboard, but we'll try to reproduce something like that next week. And then we added teaching because we thought, well, maybe I think not everybody is familiar with some of the things that we will be talking about this week. So that's the idea. of this summer school, and we again hope to do it regularly. So I'm gonna give some statistics about who applied, how many, what was the composition of the applicants and things like that. We had an overwhelming response from the community. Lots of applicants from all walks of life, very, very impressive cohort. And it was very, very hard to choose from them. We had close to 300 applications, most of them grad students, but we had a fair amount of assistant professors and even associate professors and others that were in positions in foundations and in other institutions of research. Most of them were from the US, but we have, of course, a great interest from China and India and many, many other countries. The long tail is pretty long. And most people will be attending in this time zone. Well, at least in the sense that the event that happens after the break at noon for me, sorry that I referred to the time zone here, most of the people are going to stay, and then we have around, well, I'll talk about who we accepted, but we have around 12 to 13 people in the other time zone, and they will be meeting later in the evening for me. So we had a great balance of a great gender balance, almost perfect, 50-50%. And we had a great diverse set of applicants too. So here are some of those statistics. So this is a word cloud of the departments. Most of the people were from information science department, but we had communication, sociology, engineering, and computer science. Most of you had some background in, most of you have known a little bit about network science, perhaps a little less about machine learning, but you have some expertise in programming. But still, I'll go through some basics of programming because you might know a different programming language and so on and so forth. So this is like a word cloud again from about when you told us about yourself and what you expect to learn about science. So most of you said, science of science and how to do research. And so we accepted 56 outstanding students, so around 20% acceptance rate. It's like amazing if you are reading the summer the Science of Science summer school Slack, you will see the introductions, just very broad set of interests and backgrounds, and where you are in your career is very, very encouraging to see, and I'm very happy that this is happening. So and in our acceptances, we try to balance expertise, career stage, interests, and diversity. Now, here is a call for you. Okay, I'm talking to you directly. I'm talking to the camera here. It's a little weird when in Zoom I don't see anybody, so I guess I'm not an expert yet on Zoom. But I wanted to say that summer schools, when I was young and I was starting, I attended a couple of summer school, and one of the most important things, of course, is the interaction. Is the opportunity that you get to interact with others, other students. Okay, so that's those opportunities. I mean, yesterday, I'm not gonna lie, yesterday I was exchanging emails with someone who I met 10 years ago in a summer school in UCLA. He was gonna give a talk. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend. But I got to know him, and through the summer school, we were grad students back then. So I know that this is not the same because we were physically together and we will have lunch and go out and get to know LA, but still we will have plenty of opportunities, we think, too, so that you get to know your fellow attendees. So the summer school is as good as, I would say, it's more of a team effort. It's more of the entire set of people attending, not just me presenting, on Stephen presenting, on, or the mentors even. It's more like what is the enthusiasm that you put in participating. So by all means, please interrupt, please chat. I don't mind if you're chatting while I'm talking. Ask questions either here in Zoom chat or in the Slack channels. So feel free to push the boundaries and ask us for things if you need them. We'll be happy to help you. All right, some basic rules. So we have a code of conduct that I hope you read, and there are some basic stuff that you should be aware of. Of course, the basic stuff is that you should be nice to people, and but if you're having some issues with your group or anything, please let us know. You can send me an email directly to me or to Stephen, or we can arrange another way of talking. And here it kind of describes that we again might be recording some of the sessions, and we will make them available on YouTube and Bilibili. So please be aware of that. Yeah, so also we have the Slack workspace. I think that's the right name, and we have many channels there we created. Announcement is basically a channel where we will be announcing things, and we only the admins, me and the organizers, have the ability to send messages there. But all the rest you can participate, and I've seen people, participating and asking questions. That's great. I love it. And just ask questions if you have any doubts. We are learning as much as you are learning about this experience. And if you have technical difficulties, there is a special channel called Help Desk. So feel free to ask anything related to the environment that we'll be using. All right, so the objectives of the summer school. So of course we have the mentoring sessions, and I assume a lot of, even myself are very excited to hear the talks that we'll have next week and get to interact with the mentors. But there are other components that I think are equally important, which is interact with your fellow attendees. So this week especially, and especially today, one of the goals is for you to get to know the others and get to present yourself and interact. That can be organically, or we will make you interact by putting you in breakout rooms. And the other component is, okay, so there is this group interactions, but there is a formal way in which you can participate as a group in a project. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily need to be a group for you to create your own project. I know that there are there are many circumstances and there are many career levels, and that's fine. But it would be great if you can interact with other people and exchange your ideas. And I assure you, we all have very interesting points of view for the questions that we're trying to answer here. So the group interactions and the project will be something that will last the 2 weeks of the summer school. And so we hopefully, again, today we will have maybe, well, today and tomorrow, a good idea of who might be someone who you might want to collaborate with. And we'll try to help in that process by assigning and breaking out rooms. We also have micro grants available. Unfortunately, this is only available for students that are affiliated with US institutions. This is not my rule. It's not our rules. This is NSF rules. So, and we'll describe that in more detail later. So the first week is going to be this topic. So today is just an introduction. I will talk, well, this is the introduction, but then I will talk about the environment that we're using, this environment that you see right here. the data sets that we have available, and some very small exercises to get you started and to get to practice if you're not familiar with Jupyter Notebook or Python or Pandas and things like that. You will get to experience those. And the most important thing is today is an excuse for you to introduce yourself and for us to get to know you and interact with other group members or with other people attending. Tomorrow I'll talk about machine learning and AI, some basic ideas about model fitting, validation, model validation, and then trying things with scikit-learn basically, and with some exercises. And because we have these data sets that we have on the cluster, you can try whatever you want on those data sets. So I'm very excited to see what you will be able to do with those. Then on Friday and on Wednesday, I'm sorry, we have a session on network science. So if you're, I'll probably be attending as a student as much as you, and that's going to be presented by Ching and Stephen. Then we have deep learning, and then on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday we will have presentations in the morning, more like research talks. So on Thursday we have deep learning, and we have someone from the NLP presenting about NLP, Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence, from the group of Semantic Scholar, and she will be talking about natural language processing with deep learning. And then on Friday, finally, we'll have a presentation by a colleague here in Syracuse about causal inference. Now, the week after that, we have the mentoring session. So the idea of the structure is going to be the mentors will give a talk in the morning. Well, the morning for me. I'm sorry again that I'm self-referencing here. And then there will be a panel where we hopefully will ask me and Stephen questions that will try to get us to understand what's going to happen next with Science of Science. What's next? What can they predict? What's going to be hot next year, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. So, and then after that, in the afternoon for me again, we will have these mentoring sessions. And the idea is that you will get to talk to the mentors and interact with them. Some of the mentors are not going to be available for the entirety of the mentoring slots. So we will prioritize based on your interest. I think I have more details about that, the mentoring part. So I'm going to skip. These are the mentors. I'm sure you are familiar with many of them. And the last day, here's something that I wanted to mention. The last day of the summer school, we have presentations, project presentations. The mentors might show up, and we'll be here, of course, listening to you and giving you feedback. And we'll see what you will be able to, maybe some preliminary analysis, maybe some idea that you want to pursue during the next half a year or something like that. So we're very excited to hear what you will do. So this is more details of what will happen this week. Usually, again, there will be, and these are all the time zones. So this is my time zone. This is Stephen. I know that some people are in Europe and other people are in China, India. We had some people from Hawaii. Unfortunately for them, it's not the greatest. This is not the greatest time. So we'll have presentations at the beginning to start the day, and then we'll have lectures. Okay, and the way that the lectures are going to be structured is small, hopefully self-contained topics with a Jupyter notebook, and then opportunities to interact. We'll have activities, and we'll say, okay, do this very simple exercise, which will be more of an opportunity for you to interact with your fellow attendees. And we will put you into pods, small groups of breakout rooms in Zoom parlance, where you will interact with others in the school. So 3, 4, 5 people in each pod. So, and then we'll have a long break, and then in the afternoon we'll have group activity, and usually that will be some sort of like a small homework. You can think of it like that. but also will be an opportunity again for you to work on your project. So we'll give freedom, a little bit of freedom about what you can do in the afternoon. So use it wisely. So as I was saying, second week, we have the mentors, we'll have presentations by them, and then panel discussions, and then the mentoring sessions. And after the mentoring sessions, we'll have these social events that I call, perhaps will be more, hopefully you will be more in tune with your group members, and you will be working on a specific project. So that should be more free for you to work on something that you want to do. So the mentoring session. So I sent a survey asking you for your preference of mentors, but there was a small error. Hopefully nobody noticed except one couple of people. But also I thought maybe after you go through a couple of days, or maybe the first week even, you might have a better idea of who you would like to talk to. So I will ask again about your ranking preference to meet the mentors. On Friday, I will send another survey to ask you about that, and we'll take that over the weekend to schedule the meetings. Yeah, I'll share this timetables over Slack. Yes. So for some mentors, you will need to meet them in groups. For others, they were very gracious with their time, and they will be available for multiple times. So most mentors actually will be available for 2 hours during the day of the presentation, but also they will be available the next day. So during the lectures, like what will happen next, we'll have a lecture. We'll be talking about something like Python, and then we'll have a small activity, and we'll have a small activity, and we will be broken, I guess, or you will be put into breakout rooms, and we have decided how to assign those breakout rooms, and I'll show you how to do it. So Jim share an assignment. I guess I'll show you when it's the time for the activity. So after today, after the morning session in my time zone again, we will have discussions about projects. So Stephen will present or introduce some projects, or maybe he will talk about maybe ideas that will be useful, and we'll brainstorm about topics that you are interested in. So we're going to create in the afternoon breakout rooms with different topics, and we'll ask you to join those topics if you're interested in them. And we ask that by I guess Thursday midnight, you propose very, very simple 1-page proposal of what you want to do for the project, and that's kind of will just to give you some sort of deadline for you to submit something, and that for us to understand what you want to do. And the groups will present their projects by the end of the summer school. So again, micro grants, we'll have these micro grants. I want to make it as painless as possible. So we have $8,000 to $10,000 grants. We have some wording that we will have to put in the agreement, but basically, you need to spend it on things that are reasonable. For research, basically, but we'll try to make it as broad as possible, and hopefully we'll use your projects as a way of maybe ranking you, but then we might add randomization. So if Carl Bergstrom has taught us anything, is that applying for grants it consumes a lot of time. So we want to make it as simple as possible for you. Okay, so I'm gonna give the quickest introduction to Science of Science next, and after I finish this, we'll have an introduction, a mega introduction of everybody. Okay, so we're gonna go around the Zoom meeting, and we'll ask you to speak for a minute and a half, give a little bit of background about yourself. And I'm gonna give, well, I guess we want to know, who you are. Basically, maybe repeat or maybe tell us something. If you already introduced yourself in Slack, maybe tell us something that is a little different from that, from what you wrote on Slack. So introduce yourself, what your interests are, and perhaps even if you have a project in mind. All right, so introduction to Science of Science. Now, this is like, it's to me, when I started in Science of Science, which is some time ago, and Science of Science just sounds like what it is. It's just a science that studies science. So I like to think about that. I like to think that we have an opportunity now to study the enterprise of science with science itself. Now, hopefully you don't know much about Gödel's incompleteness theorem, but hopefully the tools that we have in science allow us to explore questions that are happening in science. But maybe there are undecidable questions that we cannot decide with science itself. But for the most part, we can use the tools that we have learned about the scientific process to study science itself. So these are the classic scientific methods that you take from Wikipedia, where you have an observation, a hypothesis, you run an experiment, and you analyze the data and you report them, and then this is cyclical. You can do the same with science itself. So instead of you have an observation about how science works, and then you have a hypothesis, you test that hypothesis with data or with experiment with scientists, and then you analyze that data. So, but this has a very long history and there are many fields that have contributed to Science of Science, and in fact we are writing a mini review about this, but it's very interesting how all these fields, scientometrics, bibliometrics, science and technology studies, are all contribute, and philosophy of science, meta science, there are many names that are all trying to do the same. Maybe they're coming from different philosophical backgrounds. Some of them are doing more very heavy quantitative work, predictive analytics, and that's kind of where I've come from. But others are doing more philosophical work and trying to ask very hard questions. What are the limits of knowledge? What are the ways that we can discover with the way that we do science now? Can we do science better? And those kinds of things. So in case of doubt, just think about science as just applying the scientific method to science itself. I see some chat here, so but I don't know if they're, so if Jim or Han or anybody can answer those things, so great. Oh, who you say are the founders of Science of Science? We'd love to know what you regard as the first, as for papers, books. I'm not gonna answer that question, but probably around those names. Yeah, I would say this is very, it's very, in a sense, it's a very intuitive question that anybody doing any scientific experiment would ask themselves. So I don't think this started, 10 years ago with the usual scientists, or 20 or 50 years ago. I think it's just been around for a long time. Now, I think what has changed, however, is that we now have an amazing availability of data sets. And we have these data sets that are giving a view of something specific about science, or some aspects of science, things that we can measure, of course, but it just have given us a lot of opportunities to explore questions that we always had in our minds, right? So we can start thinking about Kuhnian questions, like what are the explosions that are happening in science? Maybe can we formulate that in a quantitative way so that we can measure it when fields start, when what are the citation patterns of fields starting, what are the big bangs of science? So, but we have to acknowledge that, the data set that we have available are not capturing everything. It's very focused on citations. It's very focused on publications, but there are other assets that we produce as scientists, not just citations. I use social media all the time, and having this summer school, but that's not being captured in my Google Scholar. I don't have like an entry saying Science of Science summer school. And the same happens with the other things that I produce. So I produce data sets And there are people that are trying to create ways of measuring credit for those things. And I'm gonna drink some bubble water. Oh wait, no bubble water. What's the name? Bubbly, I think that's the name. And we have like, there is so much stuff going on. Like you have like, if I risking sounding a little old, when I started, I was scraping Scopus. I wrote a program to scrape Scopus because it was very hard to get access to citation data. But these days you have access to so much data. So I love this graph from one of Stasha's papers that show how much, okay, so someone enable the transcript. So hopefully that helps a little bit. So, the number of papers have been growing exponentially, and they're doubling every around 7 years or something like that. Great references in the chat. So we will save the chats and share them later in some platform that works for everybody. Of course, we'll remove things that are, you know, I mean, you can write to each other directly if you want to say something more personal. But I think these are all great resources, and thanks so much for sharing. So, so we have all these great data sets that we can use now. But again, with the caveat that these are specific types of things that we can measure and that are relatively easy to measure. But I'm just amazed that we are able to access full text data, figures, captions, data sets themselves, funding, institutions, rankings, all kinds of data sets. Now, unfortunately, I was sending invitations for the summer school a couple of months ago, and Microsoft decided that they are going to shut down Microsoft Academic Graph. So that's really sad to hear. And if you go to the website, they have some alternative data sets that they suggest, but Microsoft Academic Graph is a great data set. It has some limitations, it has some shortcomings like disambiguation, but it's a great data set. But you have Semantic Scholar, they also make available their data set. You have full text there, and you have PubMed Open Access too. So we'll try to make some of these data sets available in the cluster. Okay, so I'm going to show some of them later. Okay, so I think what's happening, this is my personal view, is that what's happening is that we used to have, we always had some of the questions that we're asking with Science of Science, but it was hard to extract information from data sets, or maybe we didn't even have data sets. Or I would argue we had data sets, but it was really hard to extract information from them, like create a structure from the unstructured data sets. So there is this confluence of data sets that perhaps are unstructured, and I would say computational techniques that allow you to extract structure from these data sets. So I do a lot of work with, and on Thursday, we'll hear from Allen NLP about how they can extract a lot of information from scientific papers. And you could argue that a lot of the knowledge that we have about science is contained in natural language, just written by scientists for hundreds of years. So the new techniques that we have in machine learning and artificial intelligence allow us to extract and create meaning, or I guess create structure out of those data sets. And the same thing happens with images. So now we can easily understand graphs, and Han is working on a project where he's trying to make sense of graphs, which are basically just images that are contained in scientific papers. And machine learning and computer vision are allowing us to do that. So we can, yeah. So I guess this is what I was already saying. This opening up so much things that we can measure now with these techniques that is just really amazing. And there is much more that we can do. It's just that, you know, in my view, there are many things that we could do with the data sets that we have available by taking inspiration from what people are doing in AI. Okay, so I guess okay, so given that I'm kind of running a little bit out of time, I would say I want I would kind of avoid purposely to say this is science of science. These are the things that are happening. To me, science of science is simply the science where you study science itself. So you can take again the scientific method and analyze science. And now we have so many opportunities to do that analysis, that connection. We can extract so much structure from data that was not available before. So the potential of this field, to me, it's just going to keep it's going to keep increasing in the future. All right, so next I'm going to talk about Python, pandas, and data sets. But before that, we're going to have this mega introduction of everybody. But before that, let me know if you have any questions about the things that I just talked about.
I want to say it's a very interesting chat. I'm
yes
starting to look up some of these papers, so I think it's already it's been a good discussion.
Excellent. Yeah, I like the idea of we should use science of science to understand or to detect who are the founders. Okay, any question about the other stuff like the logistics, the summer school? No, there is no bibliography. Yeah, so I'm after you we do the introduction, I'm going to show you what this is, how I'm presenting this on a browser, and you should be able to access all of these, the slides and the materials of the lectures through in the same manner. If you can see, it's the same environment that you all have access to. Okay. So anything to add, Stephen, or
Just a quick question: are these slides available on the
yeah, they are available. I'm going to show it. Okay, so
I was just looking, but yeah, maybe you can show us.
I'm going to quickly show that when you log into this system, you will see two folders. Okay, so if you're familiar with Jupyter Hub, this is basically showing you the files that you have in your home directory in the account that we have that you have in this system. Now, these two folders are created automatically by the system every time you log in or automatically every once in a while. Now, data sets have data sets that we put here, and there are many data sets. We have MAG, we have images, mentorship data sets. But in the library folder, this is the stuff that you can modify. Okay, so we basically enter a folder that is yours, only of your account, whatever name you have there, that's the name. So that's these files are going to be associated with that name. And here you can create files, you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to create a file here. Hopefully that works. Okay, create a file. Now, inside library and inside S4 lectures, this is where the lectures are going to be synchronized. Now, the lectures that are being taken from GitHub repository, and I'm going to post that somewhere. Okay, good. So there is this GitHub repo, it's open to everybody. So it's actually an organization we call SciSci Summer School, and we have the website that you see, the s4.scienceofscience.org, and we have the lectures. Okay, so this repo here has the lectures, and they're in Jupyter Notebook format. So automatically, the system will synchronize this repo into your account, so you will see the files here. So what I was presenting here is in the introduction subfolder, and it is very first Jupyter Notebook. So if you click there, you will get to see this. So you, in a sense, have the slide available. Now it's not really like a slide because like it's a Jupyter notebook, but once you enter, you have to click this little button here. This is a system called Rice, and it's like a Jupyter, it's like a slide system inside the browser. And I love it. Cool. Okay, so if there are no more questions, we are gonna pause the recording and we're gonna have the introductions.